Hello. Can everybody hear me and see me? Uh, so literally 20 minutes before my presentation, my internet went down. It's pretty crazy. Uh, of course, chaos rules, right? But I'm on my phone, so hopefully you all can hear and see me. Please let me know if you can. Image looks scrambled though. I can hear you, but really can't see you. Oh, great. Lovely. Yeah, my God, I can't believe my internet went down. This is crazy stupid. All right. Uh, oh, man, you gotta be kidding me. Oops. Safari, huh? I don't have Safari. I'm on a Pixel phone, so I don't have Safari on my phone. I only have Chrome. So, oh man, shoot. Yeah, but you all can hear me, right? So I know it's kind of sucky not to be able to see me, but you can hear me. Let me turn this off a little bit too, because that might help. Uh, right, you guys all can hear me good, right? Just let me know that you can hear me good. I'm sorry about the picture. I wish there was more I could do about it. All right. I really apologize, everybody. I did not expect this to happen. It's really hot here, and Comcast is doing a bunch of. We have Comcast in the area. It's our monopoly, and they're doing a bunch of testing, and they did a bunch of it at our office. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna come home to do this presentation, and of course I come home, and now Comcast is working on the roads here. So maybe this will help. Screen sharing not supported. All right. So, of course, it's always something, right? All right. Well, if you can hear me, I'm gonna just go ahead and go. I apologize. You all are listening anyway. My pretty face is not all that exciting, to be honest with you. So you're not missing much, except for my great Go and D Now T-shirt. But my name is Joe Compton, and I am a screenwriter. I am a screenwriter. I am a novelist. I've written two published books. I've written three, and I'm working on a six-book epic fantasy series, which is unusual for me. If you know me, that's kind of a weird thing for me. But I am it nonetheless, and I also. Ooh, what is that? Oh, sorry. I'm on my phone. Come on. Stop. Jesus. It's chaos rules today, everybody. Sorry about that. Anyway, I'm Joe Compton, and I've written screenplays. I've made films. I've made actually three short films of my own that I wrote, produced, directed, and I also have worked on probably about 20 to 25 miscellaneous TV and film production projects. I worked in Hollywood for an entire year and some change, probably about 16 months all told, where I was a script doctor and assistant writer and part of many, many writing rooms in Hollywood, on a bunch of failed pilots and a couple feature films that I helped mold into uh, screen. And beyond all that, like I said, I'm a novelist and I've written many books. So I know this topic quite well. Yes, I understand. I'm sorry, Lynn. Yes, you can't see me because my internet sucks and I'm on my phone. So I apologize. My internet went down inexplicably about 20 minutes prior to this event. So I apologize that you all can't see me. There's nothing to see. I'm going to be talking basically. So my pretty face is all you would have seen, and I'm not so pretty. So it's all right. Sit back and listen. Uh, So I apologize again for the weird screen. Hopefully my internet comes back within the presentation and you'll get to see this wonderful, beautiful face and this beautiful t-shirt I'm wearing, which is my Go Indie Now t-shirt, which is the other thing I do. I run an online network called Go Indie Now, which is a network that produces, supports, and highlights indie artists of all art forms, including filmmakers and novelists. And we do that through various shows that we produce on a weekly, monthly, and seasonal basis. I have many shows. In fact, I just produced one yesterday. If you're a fantasy author and you want to learn about weapons, we have a show called Words That Kill. And it's all about choosing your weapon for your killer. So you can go check that out on our YouTube channel. In my bio is my YouTube channel. That is the website address I put in there, and that is where you'll find all of our content. That being said, you're not here to hear about me or what I've done or how I've done it. Well, in a certain respect, you are. But that being said, this is turning your novel into a screenplay, and so there is essentially three ways in which this can be accomplished. The first way is not so much in your favor. It is when you have signed with a large press or medium press, especially if they're housed in New York or Los Angeles, and even in some small presses that are housed in New York and Los Angeles, even have this in their contract. They all negotiate for the rights to have the ultimate right to decide whether or not your book will turn into a movie. If you're with a publisher and you have not seen that clause, I would highly suggest you go read your contract because it's there. I guarantee it is there. This is a lucrative opportunity for most people in the business to to gather a big profit, and so that is a huge deal for them. They really, really uh, covet that opportunity because, like I said, it's all profit for them. Not only is it profit on the front end, but it's profit on the back end because then when your novel gets made into a movie, guess what? People want to go and find the book that it was made from. So all of that happens, and that's something that will be helpful to you if you're an independent author as well. Uh, so that's the first way. The second way is, and then you, in that first way, you have no control. You're just going to basically get a check. That's how it's going to go. And I know that nobody's here to hear about that. So number two way, and this might be the only way through a larger medium press that you get involved with the movie process, is every studio and every publishing company has an unwritten rule. It's an unwritten law, unwritten rule about, they call it right to read, right to contact. There's all kinds of different names for it, but basically it gives the studio or the production company the right to contact the original author. It gives them the opportunity to talk to the person who actually made the world, who created the characters, and go through it. And every publisher has to abide by this. If they do not, they get blacklisted from Hollywood, and that's not good for them. So a lot of these production companies will hire you as a consultant. So you won't get to write the screenplay. You won't be able to be about the screenplay, but you will get some input into how and what they put on the screen. That is a very common thing these days. So if you're not interested in writing a screenplay and you want to sign with a traditional publisher, that might be the way to get it done. That might be the easiest way for you to get it done. And then you'll be a part of the movie process, but you won't have to write the screenplay or anything like that. Now, I contend that you're probably all not here to hear about that. Is either you're here to hear about the third option, which is to take your own book and write it into a screenplay, which is what I'm going to primarily focus on in this conversation. So, just to let you know, I'm going to talk for a little bit and then I will take all of your questions at the end. So, if you have questions, please do put them in the chat right away. If you have questions during the conversation, you hear something and you want to ask a question about it, please put it in the chat. And I promise I will get to it right after. I will leave some time to answer all of your questions. And of course, you can always contact me afterwards if you have a question, if you're seeing this after the fact. So let's start with the basics, right? So you want to take your novel and you want to make it into a screenplay. Well, the first thing I would highly suggest you do is you go and buy what's called the Screenwriter's Bible. It is actually called the Screenwriter's Bible. It's this big, thick book, or you can get it on Kindle now as well. And I would get the latest version because the latest version will tell you exactly what Hollywood is looking for. You should have this like you have a dictionary and thesaurus next to you in your writing. You do that for your novels. You use a dictionary, you use a thesaurus. Well, this is your dictionary and thesaurus for screenwriting. It'll give you how to format a screenplay. It will show you what font to use, what size to use, how to indent. If you're using Word, it'll show you how to indent, where to indent, all of those things. It'll give you all of that information. And it is a handy dandy tool that I still use to this day. And I've written over 25 screenplays and teleplays. So I can tell you, I still use it. I still reference it every time. So that is something that I would highly recommend if you do not have to go get right now. Well, don't right now. Don't leave this, but after this, go get it. It's on Amazon. It's an awesome, awesome resource. And I think every screenwriter should own it. All right. That being said, the common thing about writing a screenplay that is going to be from a novel that is going to be a little bit more difficult than most people just writing a screenplay is that you have to adhere to the one rule that I think is paramount in every conversation. 99.9% of all screenplays that get greenlit or get what they call recommended as a rating from the agencies and the readers that you might be submitting to, and the production companies you might be submitting to. 99.9% of them look at this at the very beginning of every screenplay that they receive. They flip to the last page and they see what the page number is. So that being said, you're going to have to take your 80,000, 100,000, 120,000, your 200,000, or your 50,000 or 30,000 word novella, book, novel, whatever, and turn it into 90 to 100 pages. The average screenplay length currently is 97.7. That is the average screenplay length that most screenplays that have been accepted as a recommended screenplay rating have gotten. So that is where you have to turn it into a 90 to 100 pages. If you do not do that, and it's 120, 130, 140, it's going to go in the trash immediately. It's going to go in the slush pile. It's going to go in the forgotten about pile. It's probably going to be the not recommend pile. So that being said, why are people calling me so early in the morning? Sorry about that, everybody. This is the pitfall of doing it on my phone. I apologize. Anyway, that being said, every screenplay follows the 3-act structure. That's the other big thing you have to remember. And I attended Robert McKee's story sessions, and one of the first things he does in his sessions is he challenges everybody to come up with a movie that they think doesn't follow the 3-act structure, and then he shows them how it follows the 3-act structure. Every screenplay follows the three act structure. And in doing so, you want to make sure that your screenplay represents that. And most screenplays, they'll tell you that you'll have to have 25% of the screenplay, the first 25 to 30 pages, be the first act. And then at the end of the first act, going into the second act, from 30 to about 90 to 70 to 55, excuse me, from 26 or 31 to about 55 or 60, that is going to be your second act. And at 61, it turns into the third act and crescendos to the end. So 25, 50, 25 is the rule of thumb usually on that. Again, 25, 50, 25. The other adage that you'll hear a lot when you go out there and you start pitching is, do you have more white on the page than ink? The more empty the page is, what that means is the more empty the page looks, the more people are more likely to pick it up and look at it. It's this weird visual thing, visual cue that people are just kind of befuddled by, but it basically means that the following rule applies, which is less is more. The less description you can apply to a screenplay, the more you're going to ultimately be successful and accepted. Reason being is that you have to remember something about screenplays that is different than novels, which is movies are a collaborative effort. There's not just one person that touches this screenplay. This screenplay will be touched by a production team, a pre-production team, a director, a cinematographer, the lighting crew, the audio crew, the costume designer, the set designer. All of these people are going to have a role in how they take your screenplay and turn it into their job. So the less that they have to worry about, being told how to do their job, the better they're going to feel. All of this sounds kind of daunting. I realize that. But I'm going to tell you right now, you guys have an incredibly distinct advantage. This is not all bad news. If you've written a novel and you want to turn it into a screenplay, you guys are ahead of the game. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a little bit. So stay with me. I promise you it'll get better. It does. It really does. The one thing that I will say is the easiest way to take what you've written in narrative form in a novel and turn it into the narrative form of a screenplay is to find the core conflict. Find the thing you want the people on the screen to see the most. And it has to have a conflict. That is paramount. That is, you have to have something. And in doing so, once you set your core conflict, once you know what your conflict is, you're going to want to take that and start the story there. So if you have all these all these prologues, and you have all this description up front to set up the scene, set up the characters, set up the world, whatever you're doing in your novel, all of that can go. It doesn't matter because it's not part of the core conflict. You want to start the story where the story starts. And the story is the conflict. All right. If you're trying, the ultimate goal here, right, for all of us, I think, if you're taking your novel, is that you want to see it made on a screen. Oftentimes what happens in Hollywood isn't always what people think, and that is that you write a screenplay and it gets made into a movie. That's not always how it happens, and that it gets made into a movie right away. Some of these productions take you as long as it took you to write your book, and it sometimes never gets made. Sometimes it just gets shelved. You get paid for it and you move on. Sometimes it just never sees the light of day. Maybe it doesn't see the light of day the way you had hoped it would either. So I know that's discouraging to hear and hard to accept, but that is kind of how it goes in this business, because there's so many production companies trying to make so many movies, and they're following trends. They're doing market research. They're doing all these things that determine how they make a movie. So just understand that, if you're don't play to trends, don't write to trends, don't write to write your story, tell your story. Your story is important. And why is it important? Show them why it's important. Screenplay is above everything else. I know novelists hate this term because we're adapted to doing inner monologues, and we're really loving our world building aspects and all of our skill sets there. And I know they hate this term, which is show don't tell, but a screenplay is all about that, because you have to think about it this way, right? What you're looking at on the screen came from the written word that was on the page. It's very rare. There's improv movies out there, but they're very rarely ever successful or brought out there. And of course, we're turning a narrative that already exists into a screenplay. So you want to see it go up on the screen. So your goal is to get it from page to screen. And in doing so, a lot of these things that I'm talking about, the 90 pages to 100 pages, the more white than ink, the 3-act structure, the starting at the conflict, those are all important. So, you might say, I'm going to be different. This is going to be unique and special and all of that. Trust me, you're not alone in thinking that, especially if you're a first timer trying this. It's a common thought, but it's not reality in a lot of sense. Look, 8 out of 300 screenplays that get received from reading groups and reading companies and production companies get a recommended rating. That is a low percentage. So you want to be one of those 8, right? So, following those rules is going to help you. Trust me. All right. The other really, really key element here in how you develop a screenplay, I'm going to jump a little bit ahead here and tell you that your third act has to resolve the conflict. So not only do you have to have the conflict at the beginning, it has to be solved. It has to be solved. There cannot be any unanswered questions unless they're ambiguous and kind of off center, like Inception. But you have to also understand that Christopher Nolan doesn't need to be greenlit anymore. He comes up with an idea, they make it, because he's Christopher Nolan. And that was his 4th film in doing that. So he didn't even do that in his first couple films. So there is ambiguous endings. There is kind of, underneath the cloth, they call it, kind of ideas where, like a David Lynch kind of idea. And if you're writing kind of that story, don't be afraid to put it out there. But what I'm saying is that even with David Lynch stories and even with Christopher Nolan stories, the major conflicts are solved. And they may have some ambiguity. They may have some different things that are involved with that, but they will solve it. Okay. So you have to make sure that you solve your conflict as much as you create it, and be meaningful with the conflict. So here's the things that I think us as novelists have over screenwriters. So this is the good part, everybody. So pat yourself on the back. You already have a meaningful conflict. You've written one. You have. Even if you're writing a book that's inside somebody's head, which, are cool books to read, and you're writing from first person perspective, or you're writing from dual perspectives, or however you're absorbing it, or you're just doing an encyclopedia about a world, you have a meaningful conflict within that. You already have that. So find that core, and that's what you create the screenplay out of. Often these are things that readers turn away screenplays more often for, not having meaningful conflict, too thin a story. We all know that you don't have that. We know you have a thick ass story. You have a great story to tell. Otherwise, you would have never been published, or you would never published it and put it out there if you didn't have a good story to tell. So you already have that. So you're ahead of the game. Style over substance. That's something that young screenwriters get dinged for all the time. You don't have that because you had an editor look at your book. They've already edited out they've created your voice. They've helped you stylistically shape it, but you have substance already. The style doesn't get in the way of the substance. So you have that, you have a strong